Hey everybody, welcome back to Geezer Rider. In this segment, we're going to do an overview of heated gloves. If you've been following the series, we do the overview generally without any props or visual aids. The reason for that is we want you to focus on the information and the content rather than the specifics of any one particular brand or model of product. So let's get right into it and talk about what you're looking for in a heated glove. First and foremost, as the name would imply, you want it to keep your hands warm. You want to know what the cost is of the glove being able to do that, both the purchase price and the taxation on your battery and charging system. That's a common theme throughout this entire series. I apologize if it seems to be a bit, we're beating that drum a bit too much, but it is important, and it's something that a lot of other reviews don't seem to give enough attention to, because they either don't talk about, how the one particular item should be used, or how it should be used in concert with the other items, and also how it should be used inclusively in relation to your particular charging system. So we're going to pretend that this is the only video you're watching. Gloves are important. Everybody's had cold hands, etc. So what are you looking for in a heated glove? Well, we talked about heated grips. Heated grips only heat the inside of your hand, not the outside of your hand, right? So you're looking for something to keep the top of your hand and back towards your wrist warm up until the point where a heated jacket would take over and keeping the rest of your arm warm. You're looking for it to be able to keep air infiltration or air scavenging out. What does that mean? You don't want a tailwind coming in from behind into the cuff and making your hand feel cold. You don't want airflow going over the glove, creating a Venturi effect and making a scavenging effect that's pulling warm air out of the glove. And you also don't want water infiltration to get in there should you be caught out in foul weather. You want the glove to be flexible enough, both in this direction, right, when you're squeezing either your front brake or your clutch, or twisting the throttle. And you also want to be able to relax the palm almost flat. If you size the glove right, these things have insulation in them, you're probably not going to be able to lay it flat out with the glove being too large for your hand. What you don't want is the glove to be constricted, because it's going to make for a cramped ride. You want to be able to extend the glove out so that you can at least lay, we'll use this as the throttle hand for a moment, lay a couple fingers up on top of the front brake lever while you're maintaining throttle position, just to stretch those fingers out and keep your fingers from going numb. Sometimes people have the mistaken sensation that their hands are cold in the off season when they're going on a longer ride, when actually it's muscle fatigue or joint fatigue because of the cramped position. Somebody that uses a computer mouse all day already knows what I'm talking about. Carpal tunnel, if you've had the surgery, you know what I'm talking about. So you want to be able to make sure that you can extend your fingers out and maybe flatten out your palm a little bit. Do a couple of finger exercises while you're riding or at a stoplight. Maybe open your hand up and put it alongside the engine. If you've got the gloves turned off and they're getting a little cool, but you're not ready to turn them back on yet because you are at idle RPMs, and we'll get to that in a minute. So those are considerations. We talked about the rain for a second ago. So it should be at least water resistant, if not water impervious, but it needs to be able to breathe. Your hands actually sweat. You have pores in your skin on your hands as well as elsewhere on your body. Your hands emit moisture. You don't want it cold and clammy in there. It's going to make it feel sweaty and uncomfortable and slippery while you're riding. And when you get off the bike and you're unplugged and it cools down, then they're going to feel extra cold. You don't want that either. So construction of materials, there is, ballistic and abrasion resistant materials in the fabric realm. There's leather, and then there's hybrid gloves that contain bits of both, maybe carbon fiber elements or some hardened plastic in the knuckle areas. You have to determine what is best suited to your needs. I tend to err on the side of caution. I'd rather have a little extra protection and not need it than need it and not have it. So I will forgive some styling miscues. If something's a little bulky and ridiculous, or, on the street, it looks like it's more suited to track days, if it's going to give me better protection overall. So take a look at the construction, take a look at the price point you're participating in when you're buying gloves, look at the reviews, see if anybody has had an incident while wearing the gloves and how they held up. And those should be your primary concerns. And then you get to the point where they're, keeping your hand warm. Remember, the gloves have a job to do, and that's to protect your hands and you in the event something unfortunate should happen. And then you want them to keep you warm. So when it comes to the part of keeping you warm, what do you want? You want elements on top of the hand. You want elements on the bottom of the hand. You don't want just elements on the bottom of your finger or the top of your finger. You want both. You also want to make sure they extend up towards the fingertip, because that's the forward position where all the air is breaking against it, unless you have a fairing completely out in front of your fingers. Chances are they're somewhere around here, and you're still getting a lot of air over that. That wind chill's cooling everything down. So it'd be great if your palm and everything is warm, but if your fingertips are cool, you're losing that sensation. I've talked to a number of people after a long ride, and they're like, man, I had to look down to find out if my thumb was actually on the turn signal lever or not. I just couldn't even tell anymore. Some of that's due to fatigue. We talked about that a minute ago, but a lot of it is to do with the temperature. So weather resistance, flexibility, durability, abrasion resistance, the ability to provide even heat throughout, longevity. And you can usually tell if somebody's selling you a heated glove and it's got a 30, 60-day warranty, move on. Don't even look at it anymore. That's ridiculous. They should be 90 days minimum, preferably a year or like 3 years or something. These people should be standing behind their product long term, because recurring theme throughout this entire series on heated gear, you don't wear this thing as a percentage of your total riding time all that much. So it should last 5, 10, 15 years, right? So they should warrant it for a number of years would be preferable. I would say minimum 3 years would make me feel happy, so to speak. But in lieu of that, let's look for at least 90 days as a benchmark to start with. If they're not willing to support it for 90 days, then, maybe you need to look at somebody else's product. Again, gloves are a very fussy and particular fit. I have a devil of a time getting gloves to fit me. I don't have overly large hands, but I have apparently a very big palm, and that is a problem for fitment for me. So I am a 3XL, 4XL, 5XL, depending on what brand of glove I'm trying to get into. And sometimes even a 3XL or 4XL, I still can't open my palm completely flat. Or I find one in which I can do that, and it's a 5XL, so it fits my palm perfectly, but my fingers are swimming in the finger pocket. The finger portion of the glove is too big, and it feels sloppy on the controls or the throttle. So wherever you get the chance to lay physical hands on these things and try them out, do so. And if you can't do that, make sure that the company you're buying from has a liberal return policy, because you may need to try a few different sizes in order to get the right fit. Jackets and pants, they'll often have a size comparison chart, and they'll tell you, hey, if you wear a size this in your street clothes, you're probably going to want this size, which covers this range. I'll say, for larger guys, if you normally wear a size 38 to 40 or 42 pant, you buy our extra large pant, and that's for that size, and our 2XL or our 3XL is for there on up. Pay close attention to that, because it varies from manufacturer to manufacturer. But the gloves, that is such a particular fit. And let's face it, everything you do on a bike stems from your hands. This has to be perfect. We talked about muscle memory and operating the controls for the heat troller and everything, just, as muscle memory as you would as finding your turn signals or your horn or your high beam, low beam, or your starter switch or your kill switch or what have you. You need to have the same tactile feel and everything with your gloves to be able to navigate everything about your bike as though you were wearing your warm weather riding gloves, or if you were barehanded. Don't recommend going completely barehanded, but that's another video for another day. So we have that. We have we talked about being able to open your hands and stretch them. Then there's range of motion. How do they let you contract your hand? Does the whole glove start getting tight when you got a little arc in it, and then try and pull the glove forward off your wrist? Or they have what I call the accordion or the pleating area in there, where it looks like a few ridges in between the knuckles on the fingers, and then here again at the wrist, so that it allows for some expansion and contraction while keeping the cuff of the glove and the position of the glove basically the same on your hand. Then last but not least, again, recurring theme, and I apologize, we're beating this, is power consumption. Glove, even with elements on the bottom of the hand, the top of the hand, out to the fingertips and everything, is not a lot of real estate to cover. In the grand scheme of things, versus a jacket or pants, for example, gloves should draw a minimal amount of power, maybe just a little bit more than your heated footwear, heated insoles, or heated socks. So, if you get a pair of heated gloves and they're drawing 5 amps, something's wrong. They haven't been engineered well, or the heat elements are buried in so much insulation, that's going to keep you warm while you're off the bike. But in order to actually feel any of that heat, you have to crank so much power through it because the elements are far away from your hands. That's probably not a good design. We're going to review the we're going to review the Tourmaster Synergy heated gloves, like a Gen 1 version of heated gloves that still have carbon fiber elements in there. And they're only drawing like 1.5 amps on low power. I think that's a little towards the high side, but the things are awesome. They throw a ton of heat. They are meant for cold weather, not cool weather, cold weather. So it's almost a mixed blessing. Man, are they going to keep you warm? But if you're on the borderline, you're probably going to want to wear just a glove or a glove liner if it's a little warm wrap. So specific case in point with those particular gloves, I found that if it's not going to be 60 degrees or lower for a sustained amount of time, they're actually a little too warm for me. I'm either going to turn them off periodically to let them cool down, or I'm just going to put on a traditional insulated gauntlet glove and maybe even a glove liner first and then the gauntlet glove. That's a little bulky, but you don't want your hands to sweat for the reasons we mentioned earlier in the video. I hope you found this information informative. If you like it, please give it a thumbs up and like it. Feel free to leave your comments and suggestions. As always, we'll try and address them as best we can. And if you want to see more videos like this, hit the subscribe button and you'll get an alert when they're posted. Ride safe. Namaste.